All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show. A little vacation week this week, but we got a great video for you, updating you on all the latest in Ninerland. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Man, I'm loving Pig in a Pickle. They're fantastic. Check them out. You're never going to be disappointed. Get the brisket chili, but it's all amazing. Damon and Mary, go say hi. Tell them the Krug sent you. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. My good friend Anthony Catania is the owner, and he is a great guy. And stop by and see them. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Anthony's at 831-521-5264, and you can catch him on Instagram, Sharp Corners 831 on the gram, as the kids will say. And the show is also sponsored, or I should say the video is also sponsored by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get your job ready in 6 months or less. Doesn't matter what field you're interested in. They offer 30 different certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They've been in business for nearly 4 decades. They've worked with over 200,000 students, and about 100 students every month are placed into really good jobs. So check them out. The links are in the description. They help a lot of people if you're between opportunities, if you're looking to just get a few more skills. LearnKey Upskill Academy. And thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's talk about some of the stories in Ninerland. As we, this is the downtime, right? This is the downtime between, mandatory minicamp and then training camp, which gets rolling in July. But man, the 49ers can't go more than 24 hours without a bunch of different stories breaking. And today there were a bunch, which is why we're doing the video. All right, first, Trent Williams did an interview recently, today, and it was put out on Coach Yak's Twitter. I saw it, where he basically, in the interview, said that rookie linebacker Nick Martin broke his thumb, spoke lifting weights, and then the big man chuckled, like maybe he didn't break his thumb lifting weights. But nevertheless, we'll take it at face value. Nick Martin broke his thumb. Obviously, it's not good, but it's hardly a season-ending thing or any kind of a deal breaker. I would imagine they'll cast it up. He'll have to, probably have a cast on it maybe early in camp. It may limit his ability early in camp, but I would gotta think by the preseason he'll be ready to roll. So not a disaster, minor setback, broken thumb for Nick Martin. Hopefully, it's a minor setback. Who knows? It could be massive ligament damage, so on and so forth. Who knows? But, if it's just a simple fracture, it probably is not anything that's going to interrupt the season. What I took, though, out of this story more so than the injured thumb and the fracture was that, Trent called Martin, a great player. And, Trent is not one of those guys that just boast about a bunch of guys who can't play. Trent's a straight shooter, and he's like, man, this guy's gonna be a great player, and that's what I see as well. And ultimately, that's what we're talking. That's the thumb will heal. I mean, that's a side note. To me, the bigger story here is that Trent Williams is on the record as saying that he thinks Nick Martin's going to be a great freaking NFL player, and I think the same. This guy was incredibly productive at Oak State. He flies to the football. He's strong. He's fast. He's instinctive. That's it. Turn off the film. Get on to the next guy. There are people that are concerned about his lack of size, that he doesn't have, great size and stature. And that's obviously a concern because, can he avoid getting engulfed? But being engulfed by the offensive line is more about your positioning, your strength, and your short area explosion, more so than just your pure size. You can get absolutely owned by offensive linemen, and you could be a big guy, or you could never be engulfed by an offensive lineman and be a smaller guy. It's really about how much pop do you play with, how much explosion, how much strength do you have at the point, and what kind of agility do you have, what kind of quickness, what kind of speed. But it's the combination of speed, quickness, and power that helps a guy avoid, getting engulfed. The bottom line is this is the way the NFL's going. Smaller, faster linebackers that look like safeties. The linebacker of 2025 was the safety in the late 80s. David Fulcher played safety for the Bengals. He'd play linebacker in today's NFL, no doubt about it. So Trent Williams, story number one, Nick Martin's got a fractured thumb. Subsection of that story is the big man, Trent Williams, says Nick Martin's going to be a great, great NFL player. All right, let's get to story number two. This one's pretty interesting as well. Rob Rang is a buddy of mine. He works for Fox Sports, a longtime NFL scout, great guy, terrific guy. Anyway, Fox Sports analyst, and he compared Niners second-round pick Alfred Collins to Bryant Young this week, which is absolutely amazing. Bryant Young's a Hall of Famer. The Niners have not produced a defensive tackle with more than one Pro Bowl appearance since BY did it in 2001 and 2002. So Rang sees big things in Collins. In fact, he compared him to Bryant Young. Collins is still figuring things out, according to Rob Rang, but his physical traits are something generated by AI. That was the quote by Rob Rang. BY, of course, played 14 years in the NFL, all with the Niners, 89.5 career sacks in 208 career games. What the Niners are hoping with Collins is he could just shut down the run. The Niners struggled to stop the run in 2024. They were 28th in the NFL against the run in the Pro Football Focus grading system. And Collins was excellent against the run at University of Texas, and he is a behemoth of a man, I'll say that. Now, okay, the concerns are he hasn't got on the field yet. And I'm always concerned anytime there's like kind of a leggy, defensive tackle, because it's a leverage game and it's hard to maintain that leverage. It's much more difficult for a DeForest Buckner and an Eric Armstead. Guys who have long levers and they're 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", Calais Campbell. It's hard for those guys to play with leverage, to play with a bended knee, to not give up at the point, not give up ground at the point of attack. But I love seeing this comparison. I mean, if Rob Rang is right and the Niners have a Bryant Young destroyer in Alfred Collins, the sky's the limit. The sky's the absolute limit, because I think C.J. West is going to be fantastic. Wouldn't it be something if the Niners had Collins and West and they became the great tandem at defensive tackle in the NFL? That would be music to my ears. We'll see. I'm skeptical on Collins because of the fact he's been injured. He hasn't been on the field. We'll see. But, he played 47 of 48 career games at Texas. So it's not like this guy didn't answer the bell. To me, what's the thing that I look at when I'm looking for durability? Did guys play games? Were they durable? If you're durable in college, you're probably going to be durable in the NFL. If you're not durable in college, you're probably not going to be durable in the NFL. There are exceptions, but not many. So Rob Rang sees BY and Alfred Collins, and to me, that is worth passing along to you guys, because Rob Rang's a former scout. He's not just a football media guy. This guy really does know his stuff at a very, very high level. Story number three is Brock Purdy has bought a home in Nashville, Tennessee, near George Kittle. So, we saw them hanging out at the Nashville Predators game. They looked like, they're fast friends and good buddies. And heck, Purdy has, Kittles probably could, the Kittles could probably add an extra, floor to their house because of Brock Purdy. I mean, that's how good Purdy has been for Kittle. So it's funny because Brock told us when he signed the 5-year, $265 million deal, they said, what's going to be your big first purchase? And he's like, I'd like to buy a bass boat, which is kind of cool. And he's like, I don't know if my wife will be happy with it, but I'd love to buy a bass boat. Well, he has made the first major purchase, and it's a home in Nashville, Tennessee. So just like George, he's going to play football in Northern California, hopefully his entire career, and he's going to live in Nashville, Tennessee. So good for him. I have been to Nashville. It's a growing city, lots of industries moving there. It's probably a great place to raise a young family. And Brock's from Arizona. Maybe Arizona's a little too hot. I don't know much about his bride, where she's from, but good for Brock. And he's got a home in Nashville, and that obviously is a big story as well. All right, story number 4 is Matt Mayoka went on KMBR today and said that the Niners passed on Jaire Alexander, and he was asked, Matty, provide some insight. Why did the Niners pass on Jaire. What was your feeling on Jaire, who signed with the Baltimore Ravens? He's close with Lamar Jackson. They both played at Louisville, and he signed with the Ravens. And Matty made the point, and it's a salient point, which is the Niners have starters at corner, so they weren't offering starter money. They're not gonna. They don't want to sit, Renardo Green, one of their best draft picks in years, on the bench. No, they want to play him. They want to play him outside. They don't want to sit Demo Lenore, one of the best corners the Niners have drafted in years. They don't want to sit him on the bench, right? But Jaire Alexander has the reasonable expectation that wherever he goes, he's going to start. I mean, he should start. He's a fantastic player. So it just made more sense for the Ravens. I mean, the Niners, Bleacher Report ranked the Niners cornerbacks as the 9th best tandem in the NFL. The Niners instead went with Upton Stout in the draft. Stout's going to play the nickel spot in the slot and be that third corner. And Demo and Renardo are going to play outside. Now, you can always have more corners, but it sounds like Jaire was looking for a starter's role and starter money. The Niners have plenty of room under the cap, but they don't have a starter's role. So I do think the 49ers may add another corner if they find themselves a little shy this summer, but they want to take a look at Darrell Luter. They brought in 7 different corners as well that they want to take a look at. Some that are special teams aces, like a Saron Neal, other guys who can play corner, inside or outside, like a Trey Brown. So there's a lot of young corners that the Niners are going to be looking at this summer. They passed on Jaire Alexander, and he goes to Baltimore. So, the Niners believe, according to Matt, that that they have their starters, and this guy was looking to be a starter, and they just weren't looking for that. So it wasn't necessarily a perfect marriage, despite the fact that me and others and many Niner fans would have loved to have seen Jaire with the Niners, because bottom line is, hey, get as many players as you possibly can if you're going to try to win the Super Bowl. And the Niners are trying to win the Super Bowl. All right, that is story number 4. Now let's go to story number 5. Keshan Johnson went on FS1 and said that he thinks the Niners Super Bowl window is wide open, and it remains wide open. And I agree with Key. I mean, the Niners went 6-11 last year, and they lost definitely a few key veterans, most notably Dre Greenlaw and Mooney Ward. But they also brought in 11 rookies. They signed some strategic free agents. They got a couple undrafted players, and they kind of replenished their roster to some degree. We're going to find out to what degree, right, this summer, in Santa Clara. But Keshan, it's interesting. This is the difference between people who watch this team locally and nationally. Nationally, these people are totally hung up on, man, the Niners lost Debo. And Keshan, in this piece that I read today on the web, said that he thinks that, losing Debo Samuel was the biggest loss for the Niners, which is totally laughable. I mean, come on, Debo Samuel had put on weight. He was slow. He was injured. He had just a couple of key games last year. He had a couple of key games the year before. He's got a big name, right? Everybody knows Debo. He's got a big reputation. He's out front, and he's got the boom box, and he's to me, Debo is not the big loss. The big loss is Mooney. The big loss is Greenlaw. Greenlaw, because of what he meant to the team in the locker room, and you could just never have enough assassins like Dre Greenlaw. I mean, he just lives to be violent. I want an entire defense of Dre Greenlaws. I would have kept Dre Greenlaw just because he sets a tone. But his body was failing him. His body continues to fail him in Denver. It's going to continue to fail him. His best football's already been played. He's going to be facing a lot of injuries, most likely. I mean, maybe not. I hope not, right? Because I'm a big Dre Greenlaw guy, man. Dre's my guy. I love talking to him. I don't think he ever turned me down for an interview the entire time he was with the Niners. Every post game, anytime I walked up to him, hey, Dre, you got a minute? Sure, man. Sure. So, cool guy. Really cool guy. So to me, that's the big loss, is Dre in the locker room. That's the one that's going to hurt. That's the one you're going to feel. As far as on the field, the big loss is not Debo. The big loss is Mooney. Mooney Ward is a big, dominant corner who obviously had a bad year last year because of the circumstances with his child, and him and his wife, had bad vibes about the Bay Area, nothing connected to the Niners, just because of all the bad things that happened to them when they were here, and he wanted to leave in the offseason. The Niners couldn't commit to both Demo and Mooney, and they committed to Demo. So, everybody knew Mooney was leaving one way or another, and he he said, hey, man, I need a change of scenery. Bottom line, though, is he's still very much in his prime. He's a big corner, very much in his prime. He can still run. Is he a true number one shutdown? No. But he's a big-time number two corner. And this guy's going to be a hell of a player for any team he plays for the next couple of years. So, to me, the big loss, Keshan and others will say, Debo. Pfft, that's nothing, man. Debo's slow. I don't think Debo's going to have 3 or 4 good games with Washington, and that's going to be pretty much a wrap. I would say he's got a year left of pretty good play, maybe 2 years left of total play. 3 years from now, that guy's going to be out of the NFL. You can take that to the bank, and to me, Mooney's the big loss. Anytime you lose a corner with that kind of size and strength and stature and confidence and swagger, it's hard to replace those guys. It's funny too that a lot of the talk is that Keshan Johnson was basically like saying, hey, the Niners didn't lose the pieces that you think they lost. And that part I do agree. He made that point in this piece just by saying, hey, look, everybody's saying the Niners lost this guy, the Niners lost that guy. But if you really look closely, they didn't lose all these key pieces like it's being painted in the media. They turned this thing over a little bit for sure. But I don't want to say they upgraded it at every spot. But I think they've got some significant talent, and I don't think they lost big-time guys outside of Mooney Ward and Trey Greenlaw. Niners also announced today some front office movement and some promotions. We won't go through all of them, but just a couple of the key ones. Tariq Ahmad is now the vice president of player personnel. Jordan Fox is a player personnel scout. R.J. Gillen is now the assistant GM, as is Brian Hampton. They both were given that title as assistant GM to John Lynch. Benjamin Klein is now in charge of research and development, and looks like is it Jack Kwan is now listed as a pro scout. So they had some changes in their front office, and congratulations to those guys, man. These guys work hard. This is not an easy profession. I admire these guys, man. If you're devoting your life to football personnel, it's a tough biz. It's a long grind. The hours are long. The challenge is great. And, I know how hard it is. So I wish those guys nothing but luck and success and good fortune and congratulations on the promotions, gentlemen. Well deserved. 49ers have been one of the deepest rosters in pro football. That's the reality. Yes, do I talk endlessly about, the 10 third-round picks they've gaffed since 2017? Sure. Do I talk about the 20 picks that they've missed on and since 2017? Yeah, I bring that up. But there's also an awful lot of hits. And I think you got to recognize that the 49ers have been one of the deeper rosters in pro football with this group of guys, for the most part, serving as John Lynch's lieutenants. So Niners have done a lot of winning. The Niners have put together a lot of talent. Those guys I just named are largely responsible for it, and I think they do deserve some public applause in addition to these new promotions. Also, the last story I thought it was kind of interesting is PFF's Trevor Sikkema identified one player, one future need for every team, every NFL team. And you would think for the 49ers, they would immediately say, hey, it's offensive tackle. The Niners' primary need is offensive tackle, but they don't. According to Trevor from PFF, he says the 49ers' most significant need in the upcoming 2026 NFL draft is at safety and not at offensive tackle. Now, I probably would debate that. I like Malik Mustafa. I know a lot of Niner fans don't like Jaire Brown after last year, but I really like Jaire Brown. I think Jaire Brown's going to be a good player. I even like these guys they brought in. Jason Pinnock was a good player at Pitt, converted corner. I think he's going to give them some ability at safety to cover. Richie Grant, I think, is a nice player. Marquise Siegel, he's got great speed and supposedly a very smart player. So I don't think the cupboard is bare at all at the safety spot. But I will say this, if the Niners do go into this next draft looking for a safety, it's the right draft to look for a safety. It absolutely is. Now, obviously, I have yet to do my deep dive on the 26 draft. We even haven't had the 2025 college football season. So we got a lot of stuff to look at. But just taking a perusal of the safety market in next year's draft, I mean, there's some big time dudes. There's some big time dudes. I'll just throw a few names at your way that you guys can go research on your own. One of my favorite players in the entire country is Caleb Downs for Ohio State. I mean, he's awesome, man. He flies, he hits, he runs, he can cover, he can run, he's good against the run, he's good against the pass. He's probably going to go in the top 5. Caleb Downs is in this draft. Terrific safety for the Buckeyes. Man, love that guy. Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, good player, had 104 tackles in 2024. If you go back to 2023, he had 6 interceptions in 23 alone. So check him out for the Ducks. Jalen Kilgore is one of my favorites. Now, this guy can play safety or corner for South Carolina. Dude, South Carolina puts together some of the most crazy, sick athletes. This year they had Nick Emanwari. I'd love to see how Kilgore is going to test. 6'1", 211 pounds. He had 5 interceptions last year. Really athletic. I mean, when you watch him, you can see the athletic gifts. He's really fun to watch. Keon Sabb from Bama. 6'1", 208 pounds, 39 tackles, and 2 interceptions last year. Really good player for the Crimson Tide. Malik Spencer, good player for Michigan State. The 2 guys, though, that I would absolutely love, if the Niners are thinking about safety in the first round, I expect they're going to pick towards the end of the first round. I'm hoping the Niners pick 32nd, which means they win the Super Bowl. But keep an eye on these 2 guys. These are my 2 favorites outside of the guys I mentioned. I mean, Downs is the best. He's going to go in the top 5. But Rod Moore from Michigan, little stiff, but man, this guy, he wore number 19 for the Wolverines. Go check him out. 4.38 speed, flies around, super emotional, super strong. I love Rod Moore. Rod Moore from Michigan. I think he's going to have a big year in Ann Arbor this year. And the last guy I'll say is Kamari Ramsey for SC. I mean, this guy will step up and hit you. He will knock you off. I mean, he is just a big-time hitter, Ramsey from SC. So those are my favorite safeties. We got a lot to look at. Who knows? By the time the draft season rolls around, I may have other guys that I like more than these guys. But I love Rod Moore from Michigan. I love that speed. I love that size. I love the aggressiveness. And I love Ramsey from SC. He looks to seek and destroy, which that is the position of safety. I would probably still argue that, I like Austin Pleasance, but man, Trent Williams is getting older. Colton McKivitz is a free agent. Let's not fool anybody. I think offensive tackle is probably going to be the primary need for the 49ers next year, but you never know. You never know. And safety is a position in the 26th draft that looks to be ripe with lots and lots of big-time playmakers. All right, that is going to do it for the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles. And thanks to our good friends at LearnKey Upskill Academy. The links are in the description below. Hit a like and subscribe on your way out. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.